I'm at Caja de Cambios Automático Internacional in Chiriana, and going to be having a chat with John Dodd about the Beast. Probably the most powerful car in the world. We'll have a chat with John and find out a little bit more about the history of the Beast and the story behind it. When you look at this vehicle, it's quite awesome just to look at it. The bonnet is absolutely massively long. We're talking 8 headlights, the JD initials on the grille, and then at the back end, when you eventually get to the back end, 6 exhaust pipes that are all phasing outwards, plus the side pipes as well. But I want to find out whatever came to create this beast. So ever wonder what a beast sounds like? Let's see as John fires up the beast. Something that any little boy would relish, riding in the Beast. Absolutely awesome vehicle. I've just had the most amazing drive in the Beast with John Dodd. John, can you tell us a little bit of the history of the machine? I know it started out as a dragster, didn't it, at Santa Pod Dragway?
No, not quite. No, it started off as a rolling chassis manufactured by a man called Paul Jameson, the late great Paul Jameson, one of the best engineers, full stop, that was alive in Great Britain, owning a big company called Jameson Engineering. This gentleman made the rolling chassis, put the engine in it, and tried several different types of gearboxes in there, 2 of which he manufactured himself, and clutches which were manufactured specially for it, and he kept breaking them. And I met him at Biggin Hill in 1969 when he was trying it out, and I just taxied in a twin-engine aircraft, an Aztec, which was full of automatic gearboxes, which I'd collected from Scotland, Newcastle, and all over the place, which I used to. And I was unloading them when he came up with this particular machine. And I said, the only thing that lacks is an automatic gearbox. I said, a Rolls-Royce one. I said, which basically is a pre-war Cadillac one, but it's very sturdy. Well, he said, could I come down your works and see one? I said, most certainly. And of course, that's exactly what happened.
Right, so having discovered it, how did you get involved in owning it?
Well, what happened was I supplied a gearbox, which he used and promptly wanted certain modifications. I did the modifications, we put it back into the car, and it was perfect. And he was then negotiating with bodybuilders to put a body on it. He then, out of the blue, offered the thing for sale, and it just came about that, like all honourable Englishmen who are brilliant engineers, he just phoned me up out of the blue and said, look, what do I owe you for all your gearboxes and all your time? Oh, I said, Paul, there's never been a question of owing anybody money. I've done it for the glory of working for a brilliant engineer. Oh, he said, thank you very much. I said, well, how much do you want for it? And he said a figure, and I said, I'll buy it. He said, I'll deliver it to your house this afternoon.
Wow, so that's how you managed to get hold of it?
Yeah.
Now, there are so many stories and rumours that go around about the beast and the different body shapes and things like that. But this is basically as it has always been, isn't it?
That's right, yeah. And the thing about it was that I introduced Paul Jameson to Mr. Roy and Bob Phelps, who owned Santapod Raceway. So we had carte blanche of going up there and running it on the drag strip, you know. And it ran an 11.7 without the body on it, right? 11.5, which is very quicker than the quickest Ferrari, quicker than Porsche. However, when Paul sold me the car, I had to find a bodybuilder, and of course Fiberglass Repairs, who were building dragsters and funny cars, and drag racing was becoming really big then in the early 70s, and they put the first body on it, you know. And the man from the LCC came to the house and declared it a Rolls Royce. So I'll show you the documentation, by the way. It's in the glove compartment, and of course the tax disc is on the screen saying historic vehicle, private Rolls Royce. So Rolls Royce, really, the naughty people in this business with Rolls Royce motor cars was really Slaughter and May, their lawyers, who got me into contempt of court. Otherwise, Rolls-Royce I think, were just as happy with the thing. It was my idea to drive it to the High Court. But Rolls-Royce didn't make any serious proceedings until the early 80s. And because the car caught fire coming away from Stockholm in Sweden at a place called Örebro in 1974. And that was that. BP was sponsoring me at the time, and I went back to England without the car. The insurance company paid me an astronomical fortune at the time, what it was insured for, £17,000, which was mega money in those days. And they also paid me another £1,500 to go and get the old wreck. It's customary to move your rubbish from another country. So that's what I did. And the incredible thing about it all was that BP paid me another $2,000 to put their BP stickers all over the place. Mind you, I went to get it in a private Rolls-Royce Silver Cloud 3, which had aluminium wheels on it, and designed to take a trailer, a Don Parker trailer, which I had, which could take a Phantom 6. So we duly picked it up from Örebro in Sweden, took it on the ferry, took it back to England, and got it into my rather large premises, which is similar to the one I've got here, very large premises. What happened was, I didn't know what to do with it, or scrap it, or do what, but I noticed that the chassis had survived the fire. And then, of course, I went to Fiberglass Repairs, Roy and Bob Phelps. We had a small consultant, one cup of tea, and they said, "John, the word spread, they've got it back, but it doesn't run. It was brought on a trailer," and my car had never ever been trailered. It never actually physically broke down anywhere, which was amazing, because experimental gearboxes in it. And also, although we championed the cause with the automatic gearbox, no problems. When the body went on the vehicle, the first gearbox went into flames at 850 meters, plus or minus. And of course, this was a disaster because it was carrying 1,500 weight more weight. And of course, my friend and engineer Paul Jameson said, "Well, you've got this much heat."
So, having chatted with John about the trials and tribulations of actually running the beast, I got talking to him about some of the press things that he's done, and he was telling me about a day when he actually took the beast out on a photo shoot, which all went slightly wrong, all thanks to Princess Anne.
And things like that. And Princess Anne's horse shed a hoof. Shed a shoe.
Yes.
And they blew me out completely after spending thousands of pounds with helicopters and pilots and photographers on the ground and in the air, and they've not blown me out because it's bloody horse had a bloody shoe. I could not believe it. I said, you don't make any sense, you people. Well, he said, I'm awfully sorry. He said, but you got your expenses, didn't you? I said, I know. I said, but that's not the point, you know. Are we going to, when you, oh no, he said, it's old news now. You can't,
So-
get, you know, really.
How difficult is it to drive? I mean, it seems, from the passenger seat, reasonably simple.
Oh, it is quite simple to drive. It's quite docile. It is a little bit awkward for parking because I've never ever put power steering on it, you know. I've got a couple of good engineers here and in England, one in particular, Ron Picardo. He said, I'll put a rack on it anytime you want. Just bring the car here.
So that Ronnie Picardo then could put you a very nice automatic steering system in there.
Yes,
steering.
And also there, yeah, that's right, yeah. And getting back to Ron Picardo, he's obviously, he, like Roy and Bob Phelps. Bob Phelps now, like Paul Jameson, are long dead, but they went straight into jet engine technology. Just as like falling off a log, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
They know all about the performance of jet engines and everything else, what they'll do, how much fuel they'll take, and it really is amazing, you know, because that has to be calculated for running at the Santa Pod Raceway, and which is amazing because while I was developing this car and running my automatic transmission repair business in England, I thought, well, I've always wanted an airline pilot's license, so I left the whole company to them and my wife, and went over to America and qualified as I'd already was a pilot anyway, but you know, I got instrument rated and a commercial pilot's license, you know.
It's incredible,
which
isn't it?
made it a little bit awkward because I bought a public transport certificate of airworthiness aircraft, which I was using to cart journalists about and all sorts of different people about, but also my automatic transmissions for all the Rolls-Royce and Bentley cars. See, what you've got to understand is nobody uses those cars anymore because you literally got to have a mechanic tamed to the bed. Once you understand it's a Citroen suspension, a Cadillac transmission, and everything that goes bang in the night off other cars, like on the Bentley Mulsanne, Gates turbocharger, well, that's $4,500. Well, no, it's not. You can fit it for $400 in America, and UPS will bring it here for another $100. Yeah, you know what I mean? Money saving, you know what I mean? You don't need anything from Rolls-Royce. Except the Silver Lady,
of course.
Which I understand the ones forged in Mexico are better than the originals. So
What about the braking system on the Beast? I mean, if you've got 27 litres pushing you along, you need something pretty potent to stop you.
Well, the best thing about the brake system is the fact that it came from Jaguar. A V12 Jaguar. The V12 Jags have always been over-braked. And it literally, at 180 miles an hour, I think I did 144 miles an hour at Brighton Speed Trials. And I, as soon as you back off the throttle, you drop it down a gear, which takes, there's no skill, you just pull it down, it goes immediately into second. It gives a tremendous grade retard action. A combination of the braking literally stops it. The big problem is you don't get anything up the back if you're on a road doing about 100 and 130, you know what I mean? You really can stop the vehicle, no problem. And continuous use of most cars, braking systems on mountains can seriously overheat the brakes, which causes the brakes to go sponge and you go off. Well, that's never happened because you've got a gear lever there, whether it's Multitronic, Triptronic, or whatever it is. From day one of automatics, and we have to go back to the 30s in America to find automatics, you just put it in the adjacent gear down, and it will hold you back. And if it's a very steep mountain, you put it in second, and it will hold you back, and you don't have to touch the brakes. Anybody that has a car with brakes overheating today is very uninformed, you know what I mean? But I look upon the English, unfortunately, as the most stupid race of people concerning motor cars. They put water in them, and they go for regular servicing, which is a complete waste of time. A concession today on my 540 BMW, which my daughter uses a chase car whenever we go on the classic car meets with my Merlin, just in case something goes wrong, is £590 euros to change the oil on and filter on the engine, plus EVA. Well, forgive me, but a child of 12, I know because I've got lots of grown-up children, they live with cars and aeroplanes from the word go. But the Castrol oil that goes in it, or the Shell, which goes into the Ferrari, we're not talking about cheap oils, we're talking about top-line oils, costs 60 to 75 euros. So where do they get 590 euros? But we've got overheads. And here we have a whole bunch of concessions around the world that don't overhaul engines, don't overhaul transmissions, don't overhaul back axles. All they do is service cars and take the wheels off if you ask them.
Now, you see, I thought what it was because they don't have mechanics anymore. They have technicians.
That's right, yeah.
With special gloves on.
That's right. and the moment the car is out of warranty, but that since I've been in business on big garages, because my garage, white floors, beautiful toilets, you know what I mean? No need to have it like black hole of Calcutta, like the toilets in French restaurants.
Yeah.
Let's face it, the most wonderful restaurants in the world, from Calais, Rouen, Abbeville, Chartres, Évreux, Poitiers, Angoulême, Bordeaux, wherever. Beautiful restaurants. And my dear lady used to say, toilets leave a bit to be desired, my dear. Toilets leave a lot to be desired. Yeah. Black holes of Calcutta, where you stand on those two little plinths and crouch, you know, and make sure nothing falls out of your pocket, because you'll never get it back.
You'll never get it back.
No, yeah.
So what's the future for the Beast? I mean, it's going to carry on running.
Oh yes, it's well. The last zero timing on the engine with aircraft engines, you talk about zero timing, was done by one of my mechanics that changed from an automatic transmission repair specialist. First of all, when I told him so much about flying, he went and did a pilot's course. Then he came back to us. Then he said, "I've got to go. So I'm going to do an engine course on jet planes," and he's done that. While he was in the course on the jet planes, he happened to say to the professor, I've got a friend with a Merlin engine in the car. The man said, "I've worked on Merlin engines for the Spanish Air Force." He said, "Nobody's got one of those engines in a car." But he said, "He has, I'll take you to him." So one day, he and the 40 other students came to my garage.
No.
Yeah, and they looked at the car, and the professor went, "My God," you know. So I said, "Well, you and Alex," because Alex already knew his way around the car, he'd serviced it enough times. It takes about an hour to service that car. It's nothing big, you know.
Yeah.
Never change the oil, just top it up, you know. I haven't topped it up for months on end. It's been out so many times. It just doesn't use any, you know.
Yeah.
But the thing is, they disemboweled the engine completely, because I'd had all the tools made, you know.
Yeah.
And we took it all to pieces, completely resealed it, modified it, and made it emission friendly to stop all these friendly puffs of blue.
Yes.
Yeah, and this is what we did. It's amazing. Everything in the car now is just like new, and I don't envisage pulling it down ever again. The people who run the aircraft with these particular engines within have a big problem with the Civil Aviation Authority. The Civil Aviation Authority will let the engines run, I think, for just around about 1,000 hours. And then only if certain things have done in the interim period. They don't really want them flying at all. They want them in hangars to be looked at, but they don't want them in flight.
Yeah.
Well, if you go to the Biggin Hill Air Display, like I do every year, it's only on a weekend, so I'm only away a few days. I get the family up in a little field just before Biggin Hill, and we watch the Hurricanes, the Spitfires, the Mustangs, the Lancasters, and the engines are running away. I think there's a little bit of fiddling going on, but the sad thing is that the only people that are zero timing those engines now are the Americans. A man in Harlingen in Texas, another man in California called Mike. Big time. They're not only doing the Merlin, they're doing the 604 Daimler-Benz engine out of the Messerschmitts and Heinkels. And incidentally, when World War II ended, there were a lot of Heinkels and Messerschmitts all over Spain abandoned. the fleeing hierarchy, had left them here. And Franco was simpatico to the regime. But they also made the Messerschmitt. But they got Rolls-Royce over in 1954 to rebuild, to bring in the Merlin engine and take the DB604 out and put the Merlin engine in, which a lot of work going in there, totally different motor. But I think that Rolls-Royce should have tooled and jigged and made the Daimler-Benz 604, because the 604 Daimler-Benz from 1935, the same as the Heinkel, was fuel injected.
All right.
Oh yes, and the first Benz Gullwing Merc had an option of Weber's or fuel injection. What injection? The same injection of the DB4. And when did they use it till? Until 69, when they made another change, which was basically a copy of the original one.
Yeah.
And then, of course, now it's all electronic. It doesn't need to be, but the electronics it cuts off the fuel altogether, going downhill drags and things like that. So they're it's quite, and only puts the right amount of fuel at the right time and all the rest of it. Well, so did the original 604, but we won't go into that. But I think Rolls-Royce, and when you think of it, Rolls-Royce and Bentley didn't use the fuel injection on their cars until 1984, when the Americans said, we don't want to see those Queen Victoria carburetors, SU carburetors on cars coming to this country anymore. So they had to make a very quick decision, and they made use of the 450 SL Mercedes fuel injection, which is very good, because you could now go to Mercedes, and if you needed a part for their expensive fuel injection, like a fuel pump, 1,100 quid. Don't make me laugh. You can buy it from Mercedes for 250, or from Bosch, if you like to wait 2 days, for 150. So who's kidding who? So anyway, that 1987, before all the European, Australian, Silver Shadow, Silver Spurs and Silver Spirit were fuel injected with the same 450 SL Mercedes. Yeah, actually, where people in England, in actual fact, who came down here a lot, were actually buying the cars in America and coming across here when using American number plates for a while. But this is, you have to have companies in America and all that sort of business. If you've just got a bog standard British passport and you go to another country, especially in Europe, to buy another car, because you want to get over a waiting list and you don't care where the wheel is, they won't sell it to you.
No.
Well, there are many rules and regulations. They get massive penalties. So they say. Well, I know it to be true, because I tried to buy a turbo diesel 1976 Mercedes off a man in Munich I just supplied a Rolls-Royce automatic transmission to, and this particular wanted to do it all legal, and the guy at Mercedes said there was no way I was going to leave him my Silver Shadow 4-door Silver Shadow, and I was going to drive away with a brand new Mercedes with the temporary plates on, but they wouldn't sell it.
Okay, look, John, we're running out of time here. We've got to wrap things up.
Yeah.
Thank you so much for showing me the Beast, taking me for a run in the Beast.
Yeah.
I can't wait. We've got to drive back in it now.
Yeah, that's it. Yeah. Do you want to go for a slightly longer run, or?
So, having chatted with John about the trials and tribulations of actually running the Beast, I got talking to him about some of the press things that he's done, and he was telling me about a day when he actually took the Beast out on a photo shoot, which all went slightly wrong, all thanks to Princess Anne. And so ended my morning in the company of what is probably the most powerful car in the world, and its owner, John Dodd. If you're ever in Churiana, look out for Caja de Cambios Automáticas International SL. This is John's company, specialist automatic gearbox company. They are really, really good. They're really nice people, and the great thing is, if you wander in there and just say, any chance of having a look at the Beast, they will not only show you, they'll probably fire it up for you as well. John's that sort of guy. So thanks once again to John and all the guys at Caja de Cambios Automáticas in Churiana.